Hi, I'm Jen, and welcome to Hope Hub. If you are a part of this community, then hopefully you have found Hope Hub to be helpful and you are attending our widow meetups, you're utilizing the resources that are on there, and you are listening to interviews with really incredible women who do all kinds of things that help us on our widow journey. As you all know, I am a widow. My husband passed away almost 2 years ago, and I have made it my life's mission to really create communities for widows and to be able to give them resources, and to be able to give you resources that you need so you're not constantly having to look them up and do all the research on your own because I learned the hard way that it's time consuming, it's exhausting, and all of this stuff. And so I've known Amy for a little over a year now, probably, and she is so inspirational, so incredible, such a go-getter in
Yeah.
her life transitions. And so I will let her introduce herself. Amy, tell us a little bit about what you do, and then we can just have a discussion.
Sure. Well, I love Jen, so I can remember exactly where I was the first time I had a phone call with her. I can remember exactly where I was in my apartment. But basically, my goal is to help women move forward. So I believe now, we're not talking specifically about widows at this moment, but just women in
Okay.
general.
Yeah.
I believe that women are wired to be other oriented. Like it is more natural for us to care about our children, our family, our friends, our acquaintances, our coworkers, the checkout person at Market Basket, whoever it is. Like we care about everybody, and it comes very naturally to us. What doesn't come naturally to us is asking ourselves what we want and focusing on ourselves and doing what is important to us. We kind of, I think it's harder. We feel guilty or whatever the things are. So I really like to help women move forward, get into action, and get into gear. And by the same token, I create community and connection, like what Jen is doing, but for sort of for midlife women is kind of my sweet spot.
Yeah.
And I always say we never know when it's midlife, luckily. So it's really anybody. So, but it's mainly women in there, kind of around the 40s, 50s, 60s age range. And I think that it is very easy to get caught up in the pace of life,
Mhm.
in the do,
Yeah.
right? The do. And we don't often take time, I don't either, to just sit in the quiet and say, what do I want?
Hmm.
And am I going to go for it? And
Yeah.
I always say it could be small, medium, or large. It doesn't have to be monumental. It can be small. It can be, I think I'm going to try a yoga class. That's small.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody just goes out and does it.
Yeah.
You either get stuck in the research, right? They get analysis paralysis. They know every yoga studio for 45 minutes, in circumference around, but they don't go to any. So, going to a yoga class, that is something that not everybody just goes and does. So that's what I would call small. And medium might be, creating something. Maybe you decide you're going to volunteer,
Mhm.
or maybe you decide you're going to improve a relationship with your daughter-in-law or whatever. Like something I would call that medium. Like it sort of could be really affecting your life. It's not a one day, one time thing. And then it could be large. It could be you want to move.
Mhm.
It could be you, like Jen, want to start a business. It could be you want a new partner. I mean, that's big, but it doesn't always have to be big. And if you start doing things slowly, confidence is a layering effect, So you do one thing and you're like, huh, I did that. I went to that yoga class. I can go again. Or then maybe the next time you talk to the woman next to you and say, do you want to go for coffee? Everything is layering. So I don't know, that was really a little more than an introduction, but that's
No, 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 that's okay. That's really helpful. And to I know that you work with all women and not just widows, but to kind of tie it back to at least my experience as a widow and just listening and processing what you're saying is that, when Jack died, I thought I had to do everything like right away.
I
You
know.
know, I needed to make sure every single bill was changed into my name. I needed to call the estate attorney, call the tax attorney, figure out how to pay my mortgage, like all the things like the week he died, literally.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people feel that pressure because it's like your life has just blown up and oh my gosh, how are we going to do this? But really the reality is that we can give ourselves a little grace and we can kind of take that small, medium, and large kind of process of like one step at a time. Find the yoga studio. Maybe it's, call the mortgage company because, figure out how, and kind of take that and look at what are the things that we can do. Because listen, as women, we think we can do it all.
Right.
And we need to do it tomorrow. I think it's just a mentality that we have. And so I love kind of this process of, take action, but do it in small increments. So
Right. I mean,
yeah,
and you might be unusual because you are a doer.
yeah,
Many women are, as I said, analysis paralysis,
yeah.
or they can't do anything.
Hmm.
They find themselves immobilized, certainly by widowhood. It's certainly a legitimate thing that would stop
Hmm.
women in their tracks for sure. But sometimes we lose our focus, or we lose our confidence, or whatever it is. So I think it's a challenge, but I think we can't compare ourselves to each other. We need to know that we can take a step here and take a step there, and then also ask for help. It's what you
Mm,
said before. We think we can do everything. We are the original multitaskers. Original, you
yes.
know. So it's okay to ask for help. It's
Hmm.
okay to join Jen and come on these
Hmm.
interviews and go to events, and it's okay to hire a tax accountant or hire a bookkeeper. Like, it is a-okay. Get a cleaning woman. And it depends on your resources, but I'm just saying we think it's failing to not be able to do it all.
Right.
But it isn't a failing. It's human nature,
Yeah. I mean,
and
I
you
always
don't
say
want to,
asking for help is a sign of bravery. It's a
right.
sign, it's a sign of strength and not a sign of weakness. Um,
And you don't want to run yourself into the ground.
mm,
There's no benefit in that either. So it's a delicate balance, right? We're saying do it, but get help. Do
yeah,
it, but don't do it tomorrow. But maybe
right.
do it tomorrow. Like, it has to be on your own time. But I think it's important to realize that a lot of us struggle with the do. Like, I won't even show you, but I have a crazy long to-do list that I rewrote the other day. I have a couple different businesses, and obviously a personal life, and I write it all down and I check it off, and I use colors and I try to make it fun. But guess what? It's still a freaking long to-do list. So
Hmm.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah,
So it's okay.
it's okay. I think, one of the other things that I love about the work that you do that really relates to this community, and I talk about it a lot with, widows within this community, is a sense of identity.
Hmm.
We all say, how do we refine our identity? Our identity is oftentimes tied to being a mom, being an employee, and in this case, being a husband or, I mean, a wife or husband, a wife or a partner. And so all of a sudden, you're stripped of this identity. And
Yeah.
how do you find yourself again? And I know you work with a lot of like identifying your strengths and,
Yeah.
kind of figuring out your path forward. And so
Yeah.
maybe you could share a little bit about that.
Yeah, yes. I mean, I think that is very true. And I think we are in kind of a Noah's Ark society. So it is hard to all of a sudden not be two by two by two by two. I think I can absolutely see how hard that would be, which is why, again, the work you're doing is so valuable, because you're linking women with each other. They don't have to be in a couple. But I would imagine socially, some of the widows whose spouse has died are like, no one wants to go out to dinner with me anymore. They're all going out, things like that, which isn't what you asked me, but I could empathize that that would be difficult. But the part about identifying your strengths and what you've done is, and it's a whole workshop that I do, but just for the purposes of this, to get people thinking, is, what are the things you've done in your life, and what are the skills and traits that you needed to get to do those? So, for example, many women say, well, I'm just a mom. And I say, just a mom, like we could right now name 20 things that you need to have, right? You know, uh, bravery, resiliency. You need to be able to cook. You need to be able to drive. You need you need to settle arguments. Like you think of all the things you need, and we put the word just in front of a lot of
Hmm.
things. So I like women to think about what have they done already in their lives and what are the skills and traits because nobody comes in the middle of the night and slurps your traits out.
Right, right, right,
Your
right.
traits are your traits. It's like saying, well, I have hazel eyes, but tomorrow I'm not going to. I have hazel eyes. That's the eyes I have. So I think that we often don't acknowledge and appreciate and pat ourselves on the back enough for what we are inside and what we have done. And this is not just like a work resume. We know how to
Right,
do that. It's like I had a client in a group I was running, and she moved literally from Maine to Florida to kind of start her life over. Imagine. So I said to her, well, what traits, and I have them do a whole thing of what are the traits? That's bravery, right, Jen? I mean, that's
yeah,
bravery. All the things that it takes to uproot yourself, pack up and move. So I think a lot of times we feel less than because we're again in a situation where we're not telling each other all the time how great we are.
right,
Shame on kind of the society, and women are like, oh, we don't want to be bragging, so we just don't talk about all the wonderful things. So I really try to make it a point, whoever I'm talking to remind them of like something wonderful that they've just done. Because I think it's really important. So look back, however, I'm 66, however old you are, look back and what you did decades ago, those traits are still within you. I
yeah,
opened my first business, it was a cake bakery in Newton. I was 26, it was 40 years ago. They're celebrating the 40th anniversary this year because I then sold it and they're still there, amazingly. But so I say, if I was brave then, am I not brave anymore? No,
right,
I have it, but am I going to use it? So I think it's important to sort of look back to move forward.
right. Yeah, no, that's incredible advice. And I think that when when our partner or our spouse dies, it's so like looking back, like you're all of a sudden you're thinking of what's next. Everybody, okay, now what? What's next? And that idea of looking backwards, I think is really important to be able to find our identity, to find it once again. And, to your point, you didn't have that identity as a partner or a spouse when you were 20, perhaps. And so what was your identity there? And how can you pull from that to create your new one?
Right. And we evolved. So going back to when I had this bakery and I had it for 7 years, and then in the middle of that, got married. I had my first child and I sold the bakery to my employees. I was known as the cake lady. Everywhere I went, I brought a cake. The cake, I was young, right? I was 26, young, the cake lady. And my husband said, what are you going to do? Now your whole identity, not do like for work, but like,
Yeah,
how are you going to move? How are you going to, who are you going to be? Your whole
right,
identity. What do you mean you're selling this business? He said, your whole identity is you're the cake lady. And I was
right,
like, now I'm going to be, the baby's mother. Like, so it's okay to sort of reinvent yourself. You kind of have to. And I agree with you, Jen. It's really hard to go from being a wife to not being a wife.
right,
You've gotta pull on something else, even
right.
if it's a crocheter, like a knitter, like it almost doesn't matter what it is, but you have to feel really good about the other parts of yourself. You have to.
Yeah, this is so relevant to the conversations that I have with women all the time is, like I love that you just say even if it's just a knitter, like it's trying new things on and seeing if they fit and they could be as small as learning to knit or they could be as big as becoming an entrepreneur.
Right.
So, yeah, trying the new identities on and seeing what fits. And so, the other thing that you talk a lot about and I think is really important is goal setting.
Yeah.
And I think that it's really hard, again, strip us the widow identity, which I hate and everyone hates, which is why we feel like we lose our identity. We need to find a new one. Strip all of that away. What are some strategies for setting goals?
Yeah, so I say there's goal setting and then there's goal getting.
Mm,
So, as I told you earlier, I have this huge to-do list. Is that goal setting? I don't know, but that's a big to-do list. Am I going to do the things? That's goal getting.
mm,
So, I mean, there's so much we could talk about with goal
yeah.
setting, but again, it can be small, medium, or large. So, you set a goal for yourself, and there's two ways. One is you don't have to do the whole big thing the whole time. And you don't have to change your life this month, this quarter, or even this year. You can set a much smaller goal, right? You don't have to do it all. But the other thing that's really helpful with goal setting is let's just say people in your community are saying, I'm going to declutter my house. Right? Is that something you hear? I hear this all the time. Oh, I'm going
Mhm.
to declutter my house.
Yeah.
Seriously? You're going to declutter your whole house? Are you
Mm,
really? And then what? Then you say, I'm going to declutter my house. And a week goes by and you've like pretty much done nothing. And you say, well, then I can't do that. So my suggestion is to really break it into pieces.
mm.
Start with the silverware drawer. I'm going to do the silver, you know what I mean? Seriously. And
Right,
you work from the silverware or the junk drawer, then you go to the linen closet.
right,
And now you've done the junk drawer. Now you did the linen closet. Now what are you going to do? Instead of assuming that you're going to revamp your entire every closet. I mean, there's just so you have to be realistic with yourself, I think. And when you can break a goal into smaller pieces, again, you have like the check mark and you feel good about it. And you're like, ha, well, if I did that, then I can do this. So that's one piece of it. The other trick that I think is really important is you break it into small time segments. So I work with people, I say, let's say it's clean out your closet. I'm using the same example just
hmm
for clarity's sake. Your own closet, right? That would take me forever if I were going to do that because I have trouble parting with things and I'd want to try them on. So it's a big deal. So what I say is if you're going to clean out your closet or something along those lines, allow yourself 30 minutes. Do it for 30 minutes. And then at least you'll do it once. Because, right, you can do anything for 30 minutes, right? I mean, you can.
yeah,
You go and do it, you set your timer for 30 minutes. And when 30 minutes is up, you stop and you go do something else. And then the women say to me, well, what do you mean? Like, I was really going great guns. And I just kept going. No, because you don't want, you have to be truthful to yourself. So if you
right,
promise yourself, I'm only going to do it for 30 minutes, and that's kind of what gets you in the closet in the first place, when 30 minutes is up, you're out of there. So that
right.
the next time when you're going to do another 30 minutes, you believe yourself. Do you know what I'm saying?
That resonates with me a lot too because I feel like I will take on and we'll use the keep using the closet example. I'll say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes, and then all of a sudden I've lied to myself. I'm in there for 2.5 hours. I'm so exhausted that I like can't even think of doing whatever else I have to do in my life because I've spent so much time and energy because I again didn't adhere to the 30-minute rule. And especially when they're bigger projects, which I agree, my closet would be a bigger project. Um, but yeah, and again, I think relating it, back to, um, you know, I'll use a common one that widows always are frustrated with, and it's passwords. So, chances are your partner or spouse have, logins to hundreds, perhaps, of websites. Some of them you need to know, some of them you don't. But it's this constant like, and I still deal with it almost 2 years later. I was trying to log into Hulu the other day and it had his, and I was like, no, I have my own, and I couldn't switch it over, what have you. But like identifying like what is the most, it's prioritizing, or it's like, okay, I'm gonna spend 20 minutes or 30 minutes and focus on like figuring out this password thing, and then I'm gonna stop because
Mhm.
it's exhausting and frustrating and will like drive you insane. And so,
Mhm.
again, there are, somebody said this the other day to me, there are emotional tasks and physical tasks when
Right.
it comes to widowhood. And
Yeah.
so, kind of look at both of those and figure out, what are the timelines for that and how can you break them up and make them into smaller pieces. So,
Yes.
that's,
I would say one more thing about the goal setting or the goal getting is it's really important to have short term and long term.
mm,
So now we'll switch to something else. Let's just say weight loss, which big hot topic all the time. Women always trying to improve their body for whatever reason. So let's just use that as an example. You say, I want to lose 10 pounds by the end of the year. Let's just say, right? You're in March. This is what you say. So that's your long-term goal. That's the carrot hanging way at the end of the year. The good thing about a long-term goal is you don't have to adjust your behavior now for the whole, you know what I mean? It's a long-term goal, which is good to have, and it sort of keeps you going,
Mhm.
right? That's what I want to do. Then you need the short-term goals that are going to help you get there. So one might be, I'm going to cut out sugar for this month.
Right.
So that's on the daily.
Hmm.
That's keeping you're accountable on the daily. That's what you're doing, but you're not expected to lose 10 pounds by doing it. This is just a habit of health. So, do you know what I mean? And so by doing the short term, you focus on the short term and the long term is out there. When you have challenges with the short term and
Hmm.
they're having a candy at Easter or whatever the
Right,
heck,
right, right.
which one of my favorites, but then you can say to yourself, well, now wait a minute. I really told myself I wanted to lose 10 pounds. That's the long-term goal. I've got to adhere to that. So do you see how, it can work both ways?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love all of this. And I think that um, when you talk about like this like paralysis or this like I think that a lot of women and it's, struggle with this, especially, as you get older and you decide, who do I want to be when I grow up? Like, I love that comment for people who are, as you said, 40 years or older, like, what do I want to be when I grow up?
Right.
And I think, that question comes to someone who's just lost a partner or spouse is who am I going to be next? What am I going to do next? Like, and it's paralyzing and you can spin your wheels like I do and be like, hey, I want to do this and this and this and this and this. And that's maybe not the best strategy. Or you can be like, I don't know, so I'm just going to stay here and think about it. And all of a sudden a month goes by, and that's maybe not the best strategy either. And so some of these, what you do, I think can be really helpful to to my community, women overall, but to widows too, and helping them to create that action plan. And so that leads us into tell us a little bit about, you have all of this knowledge and how are you imparting it and, how
Yeah.
can people um, get to know you and work with you and all the things. I know you said you have multiple businesses running, which I know about, but
Yes, it's crazy.
yeah,
Yeah, thank
you
you.
think
Yeah.
I'm a doer?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well, so it's all under everything I do is under the umbrella of connection and community. Not so unlike Jen. And it's mainly midlife women is the general gist of it. I do in-person events. I do a big event in Waltham called Better Together in November every year. I do women's travel and trips, which would be great, I think, for your community. And of the women, I plan a trip and women sign up for it. So it's not a travel group. We're not some group that goes everywhere together. I plan a trip and women sign up. So yes, some of the women might
Have been
eventually get to
before,
know each
but
other because they might have gone on a trip together, but it is not clicky in that way where like we're a travel group. We're not a travel group. I plan the trips and I go on them. And the women are either married, single, widowed, divorced, never been married, never had kids, have kids, don't have kids, retired, still working. It's the whole gamut, but it's a wonderful way to experience travel and not have to plan the trip and know you're going to be in a group of women.
yes,
I
yes.
mean, it's just, I don't know. I started out with one trip a year and now we do 6 trips a year. So this year we're doing 6 trips. So it's great. So I do that. And I also do one-on-one coaching. So to work with, it's not bereavement counseling, so it's not that. It's about how to get into action and it's accountability.
Mm, yeah,
Sometimes that's all it takes. I also run an action and accountability group, which is virtual, which is fabulous. These women have been in it like forever because they don't want to leave because they keep, it's working for them, right? Who's going to stay in something for 2 years
right,
weekly
right.
if it's not working? So, so I do all of this as a way to support women, help them move forward and feel within a community. And I think it's important. But I think it's all important, Jen, I were talking about. The virtual is just as important as the in-person. Because for some people, they can't get out of the house.
Yeah.
They just don't want to get all whatever dressed up and go.
Yeah.
They just don't want to go. They feel comfortable at home. And so, Jen, by providing things for them at home, that's a gift too, I think. I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's just the reality of how we live now. I mean, how we communicate with each other is online, whether we like it or not. It is a sign of how we live and communicate. So I want to end with just if you can share a little bit about your book and your
Oh,
mom
actually,
and
I happen to have a copy here. Hold on a second.
okay.
I'm
Um,
I'm actually away and I had to create a video and I needed the book, so I had to order it on Amazon and I'm away. I mean, it's ridiculous.
I
But this
love
is great.
that.
You kind of can't really.
You got to get it in the sweet
Yeah,
spot,
I
a little bit
cannot. I'm
higher.
gonna
Anyway,
unload it. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, there you go.
This is
Perfect.
it. Yeah, my mother always says 25 lessons for finding the silver lining. And it's a book written with my 94-year-old mother. And I was saying earlier, she created the first bereavement center in New York in the 70s, 1970s. So she was a young widow. But it's the story of her life, the memoir, and then the life lessons. And it's her talking about the lessons and giving examples, then I give examples, and then I give a way that the reader can put the life lesson into action. Right? Makes sense.
There you go. There
So
you
it's
go.
a short, thin, it's an easy read. It's a great Mother's Day gift. It's a great anybody gift. And a lot of our friends have read it and they're, different generations. Look, a lot of 20 and 30 somethings are a little bit lost too
Yeah.
in this environment that we find ourselves in today. So,
And
yeah.
I'm really excited on May 6th. Amy will be joined by her mom, who is just this fabulous woman who has, given so much back to, to widows. And, in fact, she was, in her 70s during 9/11 and helping a lot of hundreds of 9/11 widows as they entered their journey. And so her knowledge and her learnings and the lessons she's learned from that, I think are really incredibly powerful. And so they will be doing an event on Hope Hub called Finding the Silver Lining. And I was telling Amy before we got on, I was listening to an interview that the two of them did on the local Fox channel here. And there were two things that her mom said that really, really stuck with me. And the first is that I'm reading them because I wrote them down. I mean, talk about like on the back of an envelope, like literally. There are no bad experiences, just the ones you don't learn from. And I think the second one is, something that everyone struggles with, regardless of your situation, is learning to accept what we can't change.
Mhm.
And if I can be so blunt, which I usually am, we can't bring our husbands back. We can't change the fact that they're gone. And so, learning how to accept that, it's a really hard thing, but it's something that we can all kind of learn, from both you and your mom a little bit more about. So I hope that we touch on that in our event. Well, thank you so much. Again, you always inspire me. I follow all of the things that you do. And I can officially I'll officially sign on the virtual dotted line here to be a sponsor at your Better Together event in Waltham because I'm so
We would
excited
love to
about
have
it.
you. We would love to have
So
you.
yeah, no, I'm excited for that. I think again, it's all about community and you've built an incredible community of women and if you live in the Boston area, chances are you have heard about this event and the work that Amy does. And so thank you so much for joining me.
You're welcome. Thanks
And
for
we
having
will
me.
see each other again on May 6th. Please, if you become a member of Hope Hub, you're able to RSVP pretty quickly and easily for the event. And in fact, actually, this just happened yesterday, is that we are opening the events to all Hope Hub members. So even if you only have the free version, you can still sign up for the event. There is a small fee associated with it. But anybody can sign up for any of the events. And so we hope to see you there. Thank you again, and we
You're
will talk
welcome.
soon.
Great to see you, Jen.
You too.